Okay, so in this video, we're going to be adding fractions with like terms and adding and subtracting decimals with like terms. I'm going to keep it very basic, and you should be able to do any problem with fractions. We're only going to concentrate right now on proper fractions. But you should be able to add and subtract fractions and decimals after we're through with this, combining like terms, obviously. So the first one we're going to do, let's do x plus, let's say, 2 over 2x. Now, 2 over 2x is the same as 1, but we're going to think of it as 2 over 2x. So we can practice the first step, which is finding a common denominator. Whenever you add or subtract fractions, you have to make sure that you have a common denominator. Now, when you look at a variable by itself, the coefficient is 1. So if I have an x here, that really is the same as 1x. So the 1 isn't going to be written, but you want to assume that it's 1x. You can assume it's 1x. So this rewritten is 1 over 1x plus 2 over 2x. So that, in essence, is your problem. You change the whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. So now you could find your common denominator. So the common denominator, the easiest way to find it, you could think of least common denominator. So the smallest number that both denominators go into evenly, or you could just multiply the two denominators together in order to get your common denominator. So let's do it that way. If you do it that way, you might need to simplify at the end, but that's okay. So 1 times 2 is 2. So your common denominator for both of these fractions is 2. And I didn't write the x's in there because the x just symbolizes that they are like terms. So we'll just add that to the end. The operation is plus. So now you have to figure out that when you change your denominator, the numerator has to change as well. So the first fraction, we went from a 1 in the denominator to a 2 in the denominator. How did we do that? Well, we multiplied that denominator by 2. So the trick is when you multiply your denominator by something, you have to do the same exact thing to the numerator. So if we multiply our denominator by 2, we're going to also multiply our numerator by 2. So this becomes 2 over 2. Now your second fraction already has the denominator of 2, which is our common denominator, so that stays exactly the same. So you have 2 over 2, now I'll put the x's in, 2 over 2x plus 2 over 2x. Now, when you add or subtract fractions, in this case, when you add the fractions, you only add the numerator. You do not add the denominators. The denominator stays exactly the same. So the denominator is going to be 2. And 2 plus 2 is 4. So 4 divided by 2 is the same as 2 over 1, or just 2. So your answer is 2x, which is right here. I'll put that right here. So 2x is your final answer. So we added the numerators. 2 plus 2 is 4. The denominator stays the same with the x. And 4 divided by 2 is 2, so it's 2x. Now, when you're adding and subtracting decimals, the trick is to line up your decimal points. So if I have 2.4 plus 0.2. 2.4 plus 0.2. What you can do is rewrite that as 2.4, and let's put a y here. 2.4 plus 0.2. Notice how the decimals are completely lined up. The common mistake is to not line up the decimals. And then the place values are all different. So you want to line up your decimals so that the places match up. So then you just add 4 plus 2 is 6. The decimal point comes straight down. 2 plus 0 is 2. So your answer is 2.6. Now when you're subtracting, it's the same thing. If I give you 4.3x minus 2.2x, it's the same thing. You want to rewrite it up and down. So 4.3 minus 2.2. Line up your decimals. 3 minus 2 is 1. Decimal point comes straight down. 4 minus 2 is 2. And your answer is 2.1x. I forgot the y in this one. I'm sorry. That would be a mistake point. So 2.6y. So adding fractions and subtracting fractions, make sure you have a common denominator. And make sure that the coefficient you know is 1 if the variable is by itself. Adding and subtracting decimals, make sure you line up the decimal point. Only for adding and subtracting decimals.